Mike Matthews is back. Tennessee's freshman receiver that was certainly disappointing this year, toyed with possibly entering the transfer portal, did a lot of his paperwork. I believe it was Austin Price who has reported he was back since we got on the air. So how big is this for Tennessee, Caleb?
Oh, this is huge. And also, it is Tennessee fans. Everybody take a deep breath. With Mike Matthews back, the transfer portal losses are not a big deal and no more than any other team has suffered this year. Okay? This is what happens in the new era of college football. Mike Matthews shows what I think happened. I think Mike Matthews entered the portal because he was trying to negotiate with Tennessee, which, by the way, that's what you do in this era, right? You negotiate NIL, and that's what you do year to year. I think he went ahead and entered the portal before the window closed, so he would at least have leverage to do it. But I think he always wanted to come back. Does that make sense? And so I think that...
You know what? I don't think it was a money thing from what I've heard. I just think it was a... how do I get along with Kelsey Pope thing? How do I make that relationship work? To me,
that's what it was?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and listen, do not be surprised if they make a change at the receiver position. I've been told that that's not off the table either. Now, did they choose between Mike Matthews or Kelsey Pope? No, you would never choose a player over a coach. But look at all of Tennessee's receivers. I mean, look at what Tennessee's receivers did last year. And I realize there were injuries, but the inconsistency is the most troubling part, Caleb. It seemed like they were dominant one game and then bad for 2 games. Dominant one game, bad for 2 games.
Yeah. And there was more to that. Okay. I showed you guys the scheming yesterday where Ohio State where teams have rolled players over to one side of the field where they knew quarterbacks were looking, where they knew Nico was looking, because Josh Heupel only coaches you to look at one side of the field. There were the issues at tackle where Lance Hurd played with a sprained ankle for half the year. So there was a lot going on. Mike Matthews, I think Mike Matthews was limited because I think Josh Heupel and Kelsey Pope committed themselves to the seniority. Maybe to their detriment. But Dave, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes it works for team chemistry. I'll say this. You covered Philip Fulmer for a long time. Fulmer got a lot of blame for leaning towards seniority when he could, didn't he?
Yes.
His ties always went to the older guys, right?
Yes. They make less mistakes. He's a conservative coach by nature. So, yes.
Yeah. And maybe that... And, to his detriment, because that's why Mark Livingston got the start over Jamal Lewis in 97 when Jamal Lewis was so significantly better. But,
didn't matter. They didn't run the ball, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Any what?
They didn't run the ball, so it wouldn't have mattered if Gale Sayers had been in there. But anyway.
Yeah, that's true, actually. They threw it like 100 times a game the first
I think they only ran the ball like 12 times. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that, look, I think this is a big return for Tennessee. I mean, obviously, I think Mike Matthews is a rare talent. I've stuck with that from the start. And I think he's going to show that this year. One, Mike Matthews has, let's be honest, Dave, let's talk about the wideouts who started this year. Dante Thornton, Chris Brazzell, Brew McCoy. Would you not agree Mike Matthews is faster than all of them?
Gosh, I don't feel like, Caleb, I think, but I don't feel like I've seen him enough to know. I mean, I feel like
maybe Thornton is faster, but Thornton was banged up this year.
Faster. I would think that. And I don't know about Brazzell. I mean, I don't know if you line the two of them up. I haven't seen enough of Matthews to even have a thumbnail sketch of the type of player he is. I don't know if you've seen more of him than I have, but
okay, I'll tell you this. I'm falling asleep.
I have a better feel for Peyton Lewis at running back than I do Mike Matthews at receiver. I might have even had a better feel for Cam Selden at running back than Mike Matthews at receiver.
I am falling prey to I realize this, and I'll admit this to you guys, and maybe, Dave, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. I am falling prey to recruiting highlights because I said Nico was created in a lab for Josh Heupel's offense. That was based on the recruiting highlights of him I saw, and I fell in love with Mike Matthews' speed and athleticism from his recruiting highlights. Am I getting this epiphany, Dave, that highlights are the most overrated way to judge a recruit out of high school?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely could have told you that. Now, I think here is the concern, okay, that Tennessee, had they not got Mike Matthews, and you wonder if they spent too much money on him. But, Tennessee, let's take a look at their potential receiver position. Now, I have been told that Tennessee is in the running for Amari Jefferson. He is at Alabama, and he could enter the transfer portal. So
he's in it. No, he's in it.
I'm sorry, he's entered the transfer. He could end up at Tennessee after he's entered the transfer portal.
And he was committed to Tennessee in the past.
Yes, and clearly we'll get to this more. We're gonna take a look at the transfer portal needs, but just to really quickly throw out what Tennessee has on receiver. Tennessee would only have 2 returning scholarship receivers in Chris Brazel and Braylon Staley.
Well, now they have Mike Matthews back.
Well, Mike Matthews.
Caleb, you're right.
That's a red flag. You're year 4, and you're heading in. I mean, you're year 4 in this program, and you're coming out with 3 receivers, 2 of which are competent. 1, I don't know about Staley. That's not good.
And then Chris Brazel too. Isn't he a scholarship receiver? Or is he?
I mentioned Brazel. So you got Brazel, Staley, and now you've got Brazel, Staley, and you got Matthews. Those are your returning ones. Now, Tennessee will have some receivers coming in.
Well, let's look at who entered the portal real quick.
Okay.
Nate Spillman was a walk-on. Nathan Leacock never got onto the field. Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod were serviceable receivers, but just not great, honestly. You can get better than them. Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton graduated, ran out of eligibility. None of those are red flags whatsoever. Squirrel White was a red flag, but Squirrel White.
I don't think he's a red flag. Shoulder. I mean, injury's injury.
No. I mean, Squirrel White transferring was a hitting the portal was a red flag.
Okay.
Yeah, Squirrel White hitting the portal was a red
flag this year.
No, Squirrel White hitting the portal was a red flag until you saw Boo Carter's return, because it was very obvious to me, and I keep insisting this. The Boo Carter return was what pushed Squirrel White to the portal, because, guys, you're going to see Boo Carter on offense next year.
Well, I'm just telling you, you'd be better off with Boo and Squirrel.
Yes, true. Or just give the ball to Boo every time and have him play, 75 snaps a game?
Yeah, that sounds great. All right, so Tennessee will also have 3 incoming freshmen at receiver. They're all scheduled to arrive in January. It'll be Travis Smith, Rodarius Jackson, Joakim Dotson. I think we can agree. We're talking about 6 receivers. They need an upgrade in the transfer portal. And we'll talk more about transfer portal needs here momentarily, as we're going to address that. Receiver isn't the only position that Tennessee needs some help in. I'll remind you that portions of the program, before we get to this day in Tennessee sports history, are brought to you by Double D Fire Protection.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
All right, what do you got this day in Tennessee sports history? Caleb Calhoun. This is quickly turning into one of my favorite segments of the show. Before Caleb joined us full time, I hated it with a passion because I could never find good ones in this day in Tennessee sports history. But Caleb, man, he steps up. He's like Nolan Ryan. He throws no hitters every single day.
Like on the Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, because you throw heat every day. And if I charge the mound, you might just beat the hell out of me. All right, you've seen that with Robin Ventura, right?
Robin Ventura charged him out on Nolan Ryan. I didn't even.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan took him in a headlock and beat the hell out of him right there on the mound. You haven't seen that's one of the best sports clips ever. All right, this day in Tennessee sports history has nothing to do with Nolan Ryan.
No. First, let me just ask you real quick. So, do you think Mike Matthews is locked into a starting job? Because I wanted to ask that before we do this day, or do you think it's up for debate?
I think Josh Heupel is too smart of a coach to promise playing time or a starting position. If he has done that, this is not going to end well.
Really? That's what you
When
think.
you start promising that, you're going down it's the same thing as paying players in high school. Well, when you couldn't play players, they have leverage against you. So if you go to Mike Matthews and say, I just want to tell you, you're going to start every game, and then he dogs it, destroys team chemistry. I think Josh Heupel is way too smart for that. That sounds to me like something Butch Jones would have done. I think I'll tell you, I think Jeremy Pruitt's too smart for that. I think Derek Dooley's too smart for that. I mean, I think you've got to be the dumbest 20% of coach to promise playing time or a starting position. To me, I know coaches, and that's the dumbest thing you can do.